Good morning. Today we're going to read Baby Owl's Rescue. The author of this book is Jennifer Keats Curtis. One warm April evening, Maddie grabbed a bat, a ball, and 2 mitts and ventured into the yard to practice catching pop-ups with her little brother Max. As they trotted toward the back fence, Maddie heard a funny noise. Clack, clack, clack. What was it? It sounded like fingernails tapping on a tabletop. Clack, clack, clack. There it was again. Maddie was sure it was coming from beneath the pine tree in the far corner of the yard. She flung down her mitt, put a finger to her lips, and shushed Max. As she crept closer, she saw something, gray and fuzzy. Were those feathers? Yes. Huge, bright yellow eyes peered up at her from inside a feathery, ruffled little ball. Maddie could see a sharp beak, furry feet, and big, long talons. Clack, 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 continued the baby owl, clapping its pointed bill quickly, warning Maddie to go away. Even though the baby owl was cute and cuddly, Maddie and Max knew that it was important not to treat a wild animal as a pet. Fortunately for Maddie and Max, their mother was a wildlife rehabilitator, trained to care for injured wild animals. The children knew that a baby bird on the ground might not need human help. Its parents were probably nearby, wanting to do what was best for the baby owl. They ran to get their mother. As soon as their mother saw the yellow eyes, she knew what type of owl the children had found. She pointed to the feathery horns beginning to grow. "It's a great horned owl," she whispered excitedly. She reminded her kids that they had heard a pair of great horned owls calling to each other after the new year. Great horned owls nest earlier than other birds, often laying their eggs as early as January, even with snow on the ground. Throughout the long, cold winter, the whole family had heard the hoo-hoo-hoo as the parents softly called to each other. Then, once the babies hatched, the parents became silent. "How old is he, Mom?" Max whispered. "I think he's a brancher. He's just leaving the nest." "Why is he on the ground?" asked Maddie. "What should we do?" Max asked worriedly. Their mother smiled and silently pointed up. Near the top of a very tall tree, the kids could just make out a nest of messy sticks. He was either blown out of his nest by those strong winds last night, or he fell as he was hopping from branch to branch. Let's see if he's old enough to climb back into the nest himself. So if you look really carefully, you can see that the nest is way up there. Be careful not to talk around the baby or touch him. If he has too much contact with humans, it will be too hard for him to live in the wild. As Maddie and Max quietly backed out of the bird's sight, their mother pulled on a pair of old, heavy brown gloves and gently placed the baby owl close to the base of the pine tree. She hoped he was old enough to use his big beak and large feet to climb up the tree and then to flap and hop his way back into the nest. As his mother lifted the owl, Max realized how tiny the baby really was. He had puffed up his feathers to look bigger in an attempt to scare them away. Maddie and Max had seen animals that might be enemies of a baby owl. Raccoons, foxes, and even the neighbor's dog. The safest place for this baby was back in his nest. For several minutes, the baby owl peered at the tree through bright yellow eyes. Then he looked back expectantly, as if he was thinking, "And now what?" He was clearly too small to scale the tree. Their mom would have to give him a hand. Grinning, their mother asked her children to make sure no other animals came near the baby owl as she ran into the house. A moment later, she returned with a laundry basket. She intended to make the baby a new nest. Maddie and Max helped their mother fill the basket with small branches. Maddie and Max had seen their mother make a phone call, but were surprised when two firefighters arrived in a shiny red and white cherry picker truck. As they and several neighbors watched, one of the firefighters put on a helmet and climbed into the cherry picker basket. Using her heavy gloves, their mother placed the owl in the basket nest and then handed it to the firefighter. He rose high in the air until he was several feet under the nest from which the baby had fallen. He carefully placed the basket in the crook of the tree and tied it just below the old nest. To help the owl parents find her baby's new nest, Maddie and Max's mother turned on a CD of owl baby noises. Weet, weet, went the recording. Weet, weet, weet. It worked. As everyone watched, the mother owl soared overhead. The big bird landed on a branch. Ignoring her audience, the mother owl twisted her head and peered into the laundry basket. Powerfully, the mother owl swooped off again in search of a mouse, a gopher, or a lizard to feed her hungry baby. The neighbors filed away one by one. However, Maddie, Max, their mother, and the firefighters wanted to see what would happen next. Just as the streetlights came on, Maddie spied the mother owl again. Thanks to the glow of the lamppost, all could see the mouse tail hanging from her mouth. Max heaved a sigh of relief. The baby would eat. Come on, game on, laughed one of the firefighters. Maddie grabbed her bat. Smiling, Max threw the pitch for his sister. That's the end. So there's some amazing facts in here about these owls. Their yellow eyes help them see at night. They have sharp beaks to help them tear larger prey apart. Their wings have a flap that are comb-like on the front so that when they're flapping, the sound gets muffled and they can sneak up on their prey. They have 4 toes. They can camouflage themselves into trees with their brown, gray colors and designs in their feathers. They can't move their eyes, but they can turn their heads almost all the way around, 270 degrees to see. We can't do that. Humans can't do that. So, let me tell you about this lady here. She lives in Maryland. She's the author of this book. Her name is Jennifer Keats Curtis. And she's written a lot of books about animals. There's one about turtles in my sandbox, I think. So you should check her out. Her name is Jennifer Keats Curtis. And Mrs. Cheney actually was lucky enough to meet her. And she signed our book. So check her out, Jennifer Keats Curtis. I will see you all soon.